I keep a template ready-made in Pro Tools to save me time when I need to start a new project, but you can do this for any DAW. This template has 2 Reverb auxiliary tracks. This means that the plugins are only on these tracks and not on the individual instrument tracks. These Reverb auxiliaries have different properties. I'll typically use one Reverb channel for vocals so that those tracks can exist within the same acoustic space, and another for the other instruments such as drums. I recommend duplicating the vocal tracks or any other instruments that you're working with that you want to apply reverb to. I add sends to each duplicated track that I want to add reverb to, and what this makes sure of is that the audio signal is sent to the reverb auxiliaries of my choosing. For vocals, I'll make sure that the destination is exactly the same, but the key difference is how much signal I'm sending for each individual track. I can now manage this with the sends. Reverb and other effects should be applied towards the end of the mixing process, so I'll always deactivate the sends on the duplicate tracks, as well as keeping those volume faders down until I'm ready to apply the effects. A signal heavily processed with reverb is known as wet, while an unprocessed signal is known as dry. As well as the level of the sends going to the reverb auxiliaries, there's also a balancing act to take into account in terms of the volume of the vocal tracks and their duplicates. So the volume of the original main vocal is higher here, and this means that the actual power of the original vocal is still retained up against the more washed out reverb wet sound. This means that it's always totally under your control rather than just having a plugin slapped onto your main tracks. Reverb settings can be daunting at first, and there are slight differences between different plugins that you use, but you will find a lot of common controls such as the dry and wet fader, which is the amount of reverb effect that you're applying to the original source, attack, which is how quickly the reverb comes into play, decay, which is how long the reverb effect lasts on the sound, size, which could also be called room or shape, and this affects the sound in the space of the reverb effect, and then a pre-delay, which is how long after the original sound that the reverb effect starts. Do be careful with the amount of decay you add to a sound, and just make sure that it's fit for purpose of the style of music you're making. If the reverb tail is too long and not EQ'd, it can cause some muddiness in your mix, as the reverb tail will just clog up acoustic space for other instruments. For vocals, you can definitely cut the mid-range frequencies out and just leave the higher end, as that just won't add anything to your track. Again, just think about the most pleasant audible range.